The first thing I'm going to do is go down to the center. I'm going to go down the center of the paper. I'm going to go down a little past the middle, and I'm going to go over just a little ways. That way my boat is not in the middle, but just a little bit off to the side. For me, I think that's interesting. If you'd like to put your boat in the center, you're welcome to. I'm going to start by drawing a line that looks a little like a smile. And underneath it, I'm going to put a straight line. To make my boat, I'm going to connect them with slightly curvy lines. Now I want to be able to have some sails so the boat can be pushed by the wind. So I'm going to draw two tall lines here and two shorter lines here. And I'll be sure to give them a little top line there. Now you can begin to color it in. Remember, if you can, don't go up and down, but instead color back and forth in light, small sections. This keeps your hand from getting tired out too fast, and it makes the crayon go on really nicely. If you want a line to be darker, just go over it again very gently with a second coat of crayon. Now this one has more color than this one. You can now take a different color brown if you have it, and you can start making lines in your boat. We're going to make it look like it's a wooden boat. I'm going to go back now with the first brown I was using, the one that's a little bit lighter, and I'm going to gently add a layer of color. Again, I'm not doing this. I'm just kind of gently working my way across in small motions. Now I want to add some sails. I'm going to pick up my brown crayon again, and I'm going to, it's almost like making a triangle. I'm going to take a line from here down to the bottom, and it's a little bit curvy. And I'm going to take a line here out to the tip of my boat. And I'm going to go upward, but when I do, to connect these, I'm not going to go straight across. I'm going to kind of give it a curve. There I have my first sail. On this side, I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to bring it across. To make it look like it's blowing away a little bit from the pole, I'm going to go up to the top again and make a slight curve. For this side, I'm just going to make one sail. I'm going to start at the top and make a curve and bring it back in, and then go back to the top and make a gentle curve back to the starting place. And now I have a simple boat. Now I need to create my sea and my sky. To do that, I'm going to take a blue crayon, and you know me, I like sea green and sky blue. So I'm going to take my sky blue, and I'm going to go down to about the middle of the page. I'm going to draw a line as straight as I can to the edge. Now I have to go to this line and jump over, and jump over, and jump over. Each time I jump, I try to keep my line straight so that now I've separated the sky from the sea. Now, I haven't decided if I want a stormy sea and stormy clouds or if I want it to be a calm day. Now, you can choose which one you want. I think I've decided I want to make it a storm. So what I'm going to do with my crayon is I'm going to kind of make some gentle cloud shapes up here. And right now I'm not really trying to make it look like a sea or a sky. I'm just saving a little bit of space. So this later is going to look quite stormy. Down here, I've decided I want to use stormy lines. Now, if you wanted to make a calm sea, you might draw straight little lines like that all the way across. Because I want my sea stormy, I'm going to grab a darker blue and I'm going to draw lines that are more wavy and more active. I know that on a stormy day, even if I'm not in front of the ocean, I can see a lot of gray and dark blue. So I'm going to be sure to use gray and dark blue as I color my sea and my sky. If you've decided it's a calm day, you'll want to use lighter, gentler blues for both the sea and the sky. All right, now I'm going to use my paint. If you don't have paint, just find colors that you like. If you're going to go with a dark and stormy sea, you might use a color collection that looks like that. I'm going to use paint. Now I'm going to wait until the end to paint my sails. I've got my paints and I've got some darker blues and definitely some grays. And I know I'm going to use them both. If I use the same two colors in both places, it'll be hard to tell where the sea stops and where the sky begins. So I'm going to choose a slightly different blue for the sky. Okay, so I'm going to wet my brush and I'm going to begin by choosing a little bit of gray. And I'm going to paint kind of the bottom of the clouds. I'm going to add some gray there. Just going to use a little bit of water to push that around. I don't want puddles or pools of water on my paper, especially since this is kind of thin. I'm just going to add some, here and there around the bottoms. Okay, and now I'm going to choose one blue at least for the sky and one for the sea. I've got two blues here. One is a little bit lighter than the other. So I'm going to choose the lighter one to go in my sky. And I'm going to start at the top of the page. And that crayon is going to act as a barrier that if I'm a little bit careful, I can probably keep it out of the clouds. It'll probably lock it out so that my clouds can retain some of their white color. I'm just going to keep working my way around. I'm going to add more up here to the sky. Gently going around the clouds. I'm keeping my brush fairly dry. It's mainly paint that's keeping it wet at this point. Mainly, I think I'm just kind of afraid to get a lot of water on the paper. All right, now around the part of the sky that's kind of around the sails, I need to think about kind of hopping. And I need to really keep my eye on what I'm doing so that I don't accidentally paint into a sail. So I'm going to jump there, and I see, I've forgotten to put a little crayon line there. We can put a crayon line in between the sail and the pole that's holding it up. And I can even, on mine, paint a little of the sky there in between. And I'm going to continue on, working my way down. And I'm going to kind of come up above. I'm adding just a drop of water to my brush to make it kind of flow a bit more. And I want now to work these little tiny sections between the sails, and I'm going to be careful with those. But again, I'm not going up and down. I'm kind of gently bringing my brush side to side so that I can keep everything going the same direction. I love how that looks when I do that. And I'm going to put a little water on this, kind of smooth it out a bit. Now another thing I can do is take that gray that I put into the clouds and I can push a little bit into my stormy sky. So I'm picking up just a little bit of gray now, and I'm going back into the blue part of the sky and darkening the sky just a little bit. I like gray blue, and I'm not going to do it everywhere. I like the mixture of colors that I see in a stormy sky. It's not the same color everywhere. All right, so I've got that now. And now I want to look at my clouds. I don't want bright white clouds in a stormy sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lot of water on my brush. And I'm going to touch down and kind of drag that water back and forth on the white section of the cloud. There's no puddles forming, but it is wet. And now I'm going to go get a little gray, and I'm going to see if I can just lightly place some in there and move it around. So I'm not coloring the whole thing dark gray, but I'm letting some gray kind of fall into place in there. And just kind of see what happens if it can swirl around. If you make too big of puddles, then that will kind of become a place where the paper could tear. So you've got to be careful with that. I'm also going to pick up just a touch of my blue. And I'm adding just tiny drops, tiny little touches in the clouds. Because I don't want blue clouds, but I don't mind if there's just a little bit of blue in there. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to do is just kind of rub my brush around so that the clouds aren't completely bright white. They're just a little bit touched with gray. Okay, so my sky, I'm pretty happy with that. And now I'm going to go into the sea. Now I've chosen another color, blue, and that'll really help people know that you've chosen different, or you've chosen, you know, what part you've chosen for the sky and what part is the sea. It'll help their eyes tell it apart. Now I'm hoping that crayon's going to come right up through, and it did. Now if you're doing this and you don't have any paint at all, and you just have crayons, I'm going to show you what to do using the other side. So I'm just going to kind of lightly add that in. Now another thing I can do, another trick, is I can go back to my gray and just put a little bit of gray into my sea. And that'll cause it to look another way to make it look stormy. Now I'm going to put quite a bit more gray here in what would be thought of as the back, but in this front part I'm probably not going to add gray at all. And that's another way to kind of fool the eye to think it's looking back into something. Okay. All right, so I've done this half in paint for those of you that have some paint. Take a different color blue, maybe something that looks a little stormier, and begin to color in small amounts, if you can. And I'm coming down gently. I'm not dragging the crayon. I'm just kind of gently bringing it down. And I'm going to go between the sails here, and if you've got paint, you'll want to gently and carefully go between the sails to show that the ocean's kind of peeking through back there. And I'm going all one direction. You'll notice I'm going shoulder to shoulder. I'm not going up and down. Okay, to make that dark and stormy look, I'm going to pick up my gray. And if you didn't have paint and you want to do these clouds, just use your gray crayon to make those same changes. And I'm going to mix some gray into the sea back here. But I'm probably not going to mix gray into the sea on this side. Now, if you are doing a sunny or a happier day, the clouds would be whiter and brighter, and the sky would be a much brighter blue, like maybe that color, and maybe this kind of color. Much different than the darker ones that we've used. As I come toward the front, I'm not going to use near as much gray. I may not use any gray at all. Okay, so I've got it painted on this side with crayon on this side. Now I need to do the sails. I'm going to use paint, but you can do the same thing using crayons. Okay, now I've used so many cool and neutral colors. Blue is a cool color, and then the brown and gray are neutral colors. Then I want to put something warm in here. So if I'm going to do that, I'll probably choose oranges or reds or yellows. And really, it's just kind of whatever you're feeling like doing. I feel like if I used more cool colors, like more blue or some green, it just wouldn't be as interesting for the people watching. Now, because the sails are moving up and down, I'm using my brush in an up and down motion. I think I'm going to go ahead and add some orange into that. There. And so it just adds this nice little pop of color. And I'll probably make this one orange. There we go. And I'm going to use orange over here. Well, that's a beautiful bright orange. Put some of that on this sail again here. That is pretty. I'm going to put more of that bright orange on top of this yellow orange. And to make it blend, I'm going to take just some plain water and swipe down between them. And that should cause them to kind of come together in a blend. All right, now I noticed when I was painting that I skipped a little bit of the ocean right there. So as soon as that dries a bit, I can take my crayon and go back in. And I think it's probably dry by now, or at least safe. I can make sure that that's covered. All right, so now I have my sea. I'm going to give you a hand. If you're one of my students, I will have emailed you a handout on creating waves, so you've got some choices on how you want to make your waves. Another thing you can do on the waves, if you want to go even deeper, is you can add kind of these little scratch marks in there. And that even gives more motion to your waves, especially the ones in front. And you'll notice my waves are rather big in front and then rather small behind there. Kind of what we would think of as behind the boat, because our eyes can't pick up on huge things even if they're, far away like that. And then as the waves get towards shore, they're much bigger anyway. So you can make those little scratch marks. And of course, again, if your sea is calm, you won't have near as many of those kind of ideas. It'll be much more like flat lines like that. Okay, you can always go back in. Like on my boat, I want it to look even more like real wood. So I'm going to go back in and kind of make a little bit thicker bands to kind of resemble the planks of wood that are nailed together to make the boat. And if you'd like the color to be a little bit deeper, you can add another layer. So you can just kind of keep playing with your idea and enjoy changing things as you go. If you have both crayons and paint, one thing you could also do is once the sails have dried, you could go back in with similar colors and even give it more pop by adding a little crayon on top. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love to see what you made. Please email me your pictures at missapronstrings@gmail.com. Have fun!